With vaccinations now available, it sounds like international travel is back on the cards. And it's a good thing too, as foreigners from across the globe have been begging for a vacation since this pandemic began. The only question that remains is, where to go? And as it turns out, Ireland is the place on everyone's mind. But what does the Emerald Isle have that makes it so desirable? For all this and more, stay tuned. First on the list, the Cliffs of Moher. First up on our list is a beautiful natural phenomenon that has been celebrated for centuries now. We are, of course, referring to the magnificent Cliffs of Moher, the image of which has become a popular screensaver for Windows users around the world. And if it doesn't speak to the beauty of these cliffs, we don't know what will. According to those who have visited, the destination is somewhat awe-inspiring, with pictures and videos doing nothing to actually capture how breathtaking a visit can be. This has everything to do with the feeling that overtakes you when in the presence of the cliffs, a feeling that's been described as being vertigo-inducing, yet euphoric. It must also be said that this natural attraction is very accessible to those who find themselves in Ireland, no doubt the result of most tourists wanting to get a glimpse and feel what others before them have felt. The cliffs are about an hour and a half's drive from Galway, which can be found in County Clare. You won't have to visit Galway in order to see the Cliffs of Moher, though. As it turns out, there are popular day trips from Dublin that place the cliffs as one of their tourist drop-off zones. Suffice to say, you'll be spoiled for choice when it comes to options to visit the 8-kilometer-long cliffside that has become so popular over the years. Don't forget to bring your camera, though. You'll want to capture the moment. Next, Dublin's very own Grafton Street. If natural attractions aren't exactly your thing, though, or you've spent the majority of your holiday taking in the sight, there's no better option than Grafton Street, which is sure to build the excitement within you. This street, which is set within the beautiful city of Dublin, is filled to the brim with flower sellers, performance pieces, and of course, good old Irish buskers. It's one of the best places in Ireland where visitors can sit down and take in the culture of the Emerald Isle, which has everything to do with having a good time and drinking a beer or coffee at the nearest bar or cafe. Visitors have described the festivities of the street as something they've only experienced in Barcelona and Lisbon, which shows how different Grafton Street is from the rest of Ireland. The shoppers amongst you will also be happy to hear that this is the very heart of Dublin's shopping district. And while the shops within earshot of the street are quite expensive for natives to Dublin, the convenience of the close proximity of these stores cannot be understated. Suffice to say, you'll be able to find everything here, from incredible bakeries to trinket shops where you'll be able to pick up something for the family back home. And if you do find yourself on Grafton Street, be sure to take a turn at Bewley's Grafton Street Cafe. It's the most famous shop in the district, and you'll have to experience it to see why. Up next on our list is the Muckross House and Gardens. The hustle and bustle of Grafton Street might drive you a bit wild after a few hours, though, which is why we'd also suggest a visit to the famous Muckross House and its beautiful gardens. For those of you who don't know, this fantastical landmark can be found in the Kerry region, hidden away in the breathtaking Killarney National Park. And if there are those among you who can't help but appreciate the immeasurable beauty of man meets nature, there'll be no better experience for you. You see, this mansion oozes splendor and looks like something straight out of a J.K. Rowling novel. With a neatly trimmed hedge surrounding the property and ivy creeping along the sides of home, you'll want nothing more than to see inside. And see inside you will. To really understand just how incredible this experience is, you need to bear in mind that Queen Victoria once made the trip to see it. And in those days, a royal visit meant so much more than it does today. In other words, it's most certainly a sight worth taking in. You won't just be transfixed by the Muckross home, though. The surrounding area is just as impressive. Take a little drive around the park, and you'll see the Gap of Dunlow about 11 kilometers from the mansion. And since this so-called gap still holds glaciers created at the end of the last ice age, it's the perfect experience for history buffs and the like. Now, Trinity College. If the Muckross House doesn't quite cure your architectural itch, Dublin has another landmark on offer that most definitely will. We are, of course, talking about Trinity College, which has been described as one of the world's most ancient treasures. The university was founded back in 1592 by Queen Elizabeth I, after all. And as you can imagine, a commissioning by the Queen meant that workers had to do everything they could to design and build something that would not only stand tall for centuries, but become a flagship landmark of the country. And that's precisely what they did. Upon entering the gates of the college, you'll come across an incredible cobblestone floor, which you'll feel blessed to be walking on, considering its immense age. And when you walk around the campus, you'll honestly feel like you've traveled back in time. The buildings have been perfectly preserved and designed in such a way that their curves and crevices are enough to have you standing there in awe for hours on end. It's the perfect place to get lost once you've grown tired of the bars and cars of Dublin, but there's a lot more to the campus than this. In fact, you'll be able to find treasures like the Book of Kells on permanent display within it, as well as the mind-boggling long room upon which the Library of Hogwarts was based. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, you'll also have something to rave about. Next up on the list, Kilmainham Jail. Something travelers don't do enough when they visit far-off countries is get involved in the actual past of the region. And when it comes to to Ireland, the story couldn't be more impressive. The country has overcome some incredible hurdles over the years, with its past being quite dark. In order to truly experience this, though, you'll want to make a turn at Kilmainham Jail. For those of you who don't know, this is where the leaders of the 1916 uprising were brought after failing to overturn the ruling party at the time. And it was here where the leaders were executed in the prison yard after being convicted of the crime of high treason. Surprisingly enough, there was but one survivor of the grisly fate, the leader known as Eamon de Valera, who was saved because of his American citizenship and went on to become the president of Ireland. The halls of the landmark are something to behold and are still caked in instances of historical injustice. The prison was established back in 1796 after all, and went on to house citizens who were termed criminals after being unable to pay their train tickets during the time known as the famine. Remember, back then, the culture was very much one of steal to survive, with the jail being built to discourage this behavior. As such, the landmark has a number of stories to be told, and you'll be kicking yourself if you end up missing any of them. Last on the list is the monastic city of Glendalough. Last but not least, we have something for you religious nuts out there, which is none other than the monastic city of Glendalough. It is a mysterious and magical place regardless of your religious affiliations, though, and was actually established by Saint Kevin during the 6th century. Back then, it was just a settlement, though. It did, however, eventually evolve into what is now known as the monastic city, which offers everything from archaeological finds to plentiful wildlife. It's a place unlike any other in Ireland, especially if you're used to the cafe and bar culture that runs wild in the country. After you've explored the impressive power of Glendalough, which has been immaculately preserved, we might add, you'll want to take a load off by discovering what the surrounding forest and lakes have to offer. If this sounds like something for you, be sure to take your own picnic basket with. There's no better place to enjoy some good food and drink while you take in the fantastical views of Ireland. There are also a couple of marked nature trails to follow, which amount to enjoyable hikes that aren't at all difficult to complete. Suffice to say, you'll be spoiled for choice in the monastic city. And there you have it, the top 6 things tourists can explore and discover in the Emerald Isle. Which option would you love to tackle first, though? And did we miss out on any of your favorites? Be sure to let us know in the comments section down below.